That's the sound of a big deal. At Wayfair, that sound happens a lot. Dream sofa for half the price? Big deal. New dining table you've been eyeing for months? Big deal. Finally picking up those last few pieces and finishing that bedroom? Now that's a really big deal. Whatever your home needs, Wayfair has the selection, the savings, and over millions of 5-star reviews to back it up. Shop Wayfair.com today before someone else snags your big deal.
Wayfair, every style, every home.
Hey friends, welcome to Moments That Matter. I'm your host, Callie Wiley, and I'm so glad you're here. This is the space where we'll talk about real life, the messy, the beautiful, the in-between moments that actually shape us. We'll dive into business, balance, building connections that feel real, growing brands with heart, meeting amazing people, and figuring out how to be our most authentic selves. No filters, no fluff, just honest conversations to help you show up fully in your life and step into the version of you that is already there. So get comfy, grab your coffee, and let's talk about the moments that actually matter. Hi, and welcome back to another episode of the Moments That Matter podcast. Today we are talking about, I'm going to call it work-life balance, because that's the term that most people know. But I want to share with you a different frame of this, of work-life integration and what integrating your work and life can look like. And this is something that is super important to me. If you don't know my journey, I have struggled with severe burnout for a long time. I struggled with grief for a really long time and didn't balance well. And so I am on a journey of trying to figure out how to balance all the things so that it's healthy, so that it makes sense, so that I can have a really successful life and integrate into my life things that really do matter to me. When you lose people or you navigate through grief and loss, the one thing that I have learned is tomorrow's not promised. And y'all, to be really honest, the number of times I never went home to see my parents because I said, sorry, I'm working. Sorry, I'm really busy at work. Guess what? Work was never going to not be busy. It was an excuse. And I didn't do a lot that I wish I would have done because I lived in this state of hustle culture, and I'm going to hustle and I'm going to work 80-hour work weeks and I'm going to do all these things. And that's going to get me success. And work is really important. And I know that I'm a business consultant and a leadership coach, and I run a podcast that is going to share with you how to be really badass in the work world. But y'all, you're here for a point, and so much of life gets left in the dust because we spend so much time hustling, and we get up at 6 a.m. and we instantly check Slack, and then we're deep into our emails by 6:15, and now we missed our whole morning with our family. And then all of a sudden we've worked all the way through, and now we've worked through dinner, and dinner, just forget dinner with your family because we are working, and all of a sudden it's time to go to bed, and we've missed out on everything. And it builds resentment, and it builds anxiety, and it builds burnout, and it builds a life that's not sustainable. You guys, this is really raw for me. This is something that I haven't shared on a public platform quite to this degree, just the level of burnout I was experiencing. You guys, I hustled for years, and it was something that was really important to me. I'm going to hustle my way to the very tippity top, and I'm going to get the big title, and I'm going to get the title, and that's going to be my pinnacle, right? And then I looked back, and I realized the amount of anxiety that I had, and the amount of depression I was facing, and the amount of what ifs I was facing because I said no to everything that really mattered to me. I said no to family trips. I said no to opportunities to see people. I missed out on people's birthdays and going to dinner with friends during the week because I had this mentality that Monday through Friday it was work. It was sun up to sun down, work. It was as late as possible. I was on Slack all the time. I would be at dinner with friends on a Saturday night with my face in my phone on Slack, responding to an email. And y'all, that is not integration. That's not balance. It's going to get you to a place of extreme burnout and extreme resentment. And it's going to be really hard to dig out from that. And right now I'm in a space of, I didn't take time to grieve. I didn't take time to heal. I didn't take time to find that balance. And it put me in a deep state of burnout. And I think that second week of the podcast, but third episode, I talk about burnout and I talk about how to overcome burnout. But really, once you've done that work, you've got that episode under your belt and you've kept listening and you listened about morning routines, we're going to start digging into how do we really navigate work-life integration? Because y'all, I'm still passionate about building something. I'm still passionate about building business. I just believe there's a better way. I believe there's a better way to build a work-life balance that doesn't have to be work is 90% of your life. Life is 10%. You guys, when you leave this earth, what is the legacy you want to leave? Do you want to say, man, she worked a lot. She really hustled. She really hustled. And for so long I thought that's what I wanted. Or do you want people to say, gosh, she never missed my birthday. She was so present when we were at coffee. She listened. She didn't forget about who I was as a human. That is the legacy I want to leave. And I want to build really incredible things. And I want to build a really incredible company, but I want to make sure that my life is not at the expense of that. And this is so tough because so many people say, hey, my role requires me to work 80 hours a week. And I want you to find those boundaries of what that looks like because it's not healthy. It's not healthy. And when we start to talk about work-life balance and work-life integration, it's creating this healthy balance of stress management and improved mental health and stronger relationships. Because y'all, when I was deep into my hustle culture season, most of my relationships went to the wayside. I've lost really good friends because I wanted to hustle. I've had to repair friendships because I chose the hustle over really important life events. And y'all, that's not something I'm proud of. It's just the reality. And I am always going to keep growing and learning and adapting. And I know that there's a better way. I'm not going to miss people's birthdays anymore. I'm not going to miss out on things that really matter to me because I'm hustling. I'm going to build a really awesome company, but I'm going to be really good with my time management. And I'm going to build a business, but I'm going to be really respectful of my boundaries. And that's how we do this. That's how we improve what we get to do. It's how we set this opportunity, right, to create life. I had a situation a couple months ago. I had a friend in town who texted me and I was still working full-time, a lot of hours. And I'm proud of what I did. I loved what I did, but I wasn't taking care of me. I'd put all of my own healing on the back burner. And, she texted me and said, hey, I'd love to let's go for a walk in the morning. And I didn't. I said, I can't because I'm working. And it was not wrong. I was. But, I look at that now and I want to say yes to those things because that's what really matters. That's what we're here for. And so when we can start to balance our overall well-being first and integrate things together, that's where you're going to find this happy balance that you feel like you can really take on the world. You have the motivation, you have the energy. Because y'all, when I'm deep in burnout, I have no energy. And so you're trying to work these 80-hour work weeks and really you're probably only getting 30 hours of work done because that's the capacity you have. And now what are you doing? Now you're working 80 hours, but really only doing 30 hours of production. And you missed out on all these other hours with people that matter and life that matters. So what we want to talk about is how do we assess what our current situation is? Okay. I want you to reflect. I want you to reflect on your current work-life situation. How many soccer games for your kids did you miss? How many opportunities with people did you miss? How many dinners did you say no to? How many dinners did you not have with your family in the last month because you said, I can't? Now, I will always put a little asterisk. I understand that there are certain situations, right? I go to networking events in the evening. There are certain situations. I was in HOA world for a long time. Board meetings are at night. It's different, right? You have that evening board meeting. That's okay. You can have things like that. But how are we compensating for that on the other end of it? Okay, so assess your current situation and be really honest. What are you missing out on? What are you missing out on because you said yes to one thing or the other? Okay. What are you not showing up for? I want you to really evaluate what that looks like. Maybe you need to write it down. Maybe you just need to visualize. Maybe you're like, nope, I know this is a problem. I don't need to write anything down. I know that this is a problem, but write it all out. What does your current situation look like? Where are you showing up? Where are you not showing up? What do your hours look like? When was the last time you showed up for you? Okay. When was the last time you showed up for you? you skip that morning routine? We talked about that 2 episodes ago, I think. Did you skip your morning routine because you felt like you had to get to your desk? Okay, so we're talking through, look at our current situation. How are we integrating? How are we moving? How are we doing things? And then I want you to start setting some boundaries. You have to set boundaries, okay? You have to have designated work hours. You have to. You have to have designated work hours. You have to have opportunities of like, these are my hours. I work from 8 to 5 and I am done. Tomorrow it will be there. Y'all, I don't know what career you're in. I'm sorry if you're a heart surgeon, your work is really important. If you have to have a 16-hour surgery, please don't leave in the middle of that. Please, you're saving someone's life. But if you are answering emails, they can go till tomorrow. You're not. No one is going to be injured. That's not that serious, okay? Your emails can go till tomorrow. So if your work hours are 8 to 5, designate those times. I have what I've created, especially I've worked from home for quite a while now. I've shifted. I've had this like moment of healing and now I've shifted into launching this business. I'm super hyper intentional. I call them deep work hours. My deep work hours are my deep work hours. It's when I hyper focus on batch recording. Okay. I sat down this morning about 8 o'clock. I still went on my morning walk. I had my morning routine first thing this morning. I sat down at 8 a.m. and I hyper focused on the podcast for 5 hours. I blocked out 5 hours. I'm going to record for 5 hours. I'm going to get done what I can get done. Whatever doesn't get done. And then I've got time blocked off later this week to do the same thing. Okay. I block it off. I designated that time. I had my morning routine blocked off. Not negotiable. I'm not going to move this up because of that. And I had a client reach out to schedule a one-on-one call. Yep. I'm available. They said, can you do Tuesday at 7 a.m.? I cannot. I can do 9 a.m. Does that work for you? And they said, yep, no problem. So creating these designated times that you're like, this is when I deep work. I tend to sit right now as I'm transitioning through healing. My hours seem to be closer to like 9 to 4 are my hyper-focused hours, 9 to 3, depending on what I'm doing for the day. But designating those, I have designated work hours. They're non-negotiable. Everything else waits till tomorrow. But I have that flip side for work, right? I have my deep work hours that like I'm hyper-focused on the podcast. I'm hyper-focused on social media. I'm hyper-focused on content creation for the podcast. But when that time is up, I'm done. I'm all done. And that's really tough because it's so easy to say, I'm just going to sit here for another hour and see what I can get done so that I'm ahead of the game for tomorrow. Guess what? Something else is coming up tomorrow. And now you're in this hamster wheel. And I've done it, you guys. I've done the 16 hours straight. I've done the 12-hour days. And y'all, tomorrow is just going to be another 12-hour day. And so you have to create these really set boundaries. If eating dinner with your family is super important, or you have kids or nephews or nieces that play sports or whatever, and being at those is really important, schedule that around that. Be really firm with that. Now, I recognize that not all jobs have flexibility to that. Okay. I recognize that. Maybe you work in an office it's 8 to 5. Those are your hours. And that's great. But at 5, you leave. At 5, you leave because your family comes next. And those are the things that you have to be participating in, is showing up for your family or having dinner with your friends or doing XYZ. You cannot just stay an extra hour and a half for fun. You can, but you're going to look back, you guys. You're going to look back, because I have. And I share this so raw and honest because this is something I've struggled with. And this is something that I've had to learn how to navigate, is how do I keep showing up for my personal life when I'm trying to build something great? So this is where I want to dive into being really effective with your time management. Okay. I did this course for my Power Hour series. If you didn't attend it, bummer. But time management is super, super important, because I really think that there's a better way. When we look at work-life integration, I really believe that if you prioritize your time block, and do deep work, you can get your 80 hours of work done in 20 to 30 hours. I really believe that, which is going to open your schedule up to being able to focus on those moments that matter, right? Even if you have an office schedule or a set schedule, you work in retail, you work in restaurants, you work in weddings, you work in events, catering, whatever. If you can focus your time really well and really prioritize your time, you're going to be better at work. And the stress that you're going to bring home will be reduced because you've gone through so much more because you work effectively. Okay. And we're going to talk about how do we get really effective with our time so that our work doesn't bleed it into home, so that we're not continuing to hang tight and continue on with things that are happening into our personal lives. There are some very specific techniques that I utilize. Time blocking is for sure one of them. Block out your calendar. I mentioned a little bit ago, I blocked out my time. This is the 5 hours I'm working on the podcast. That's all I'm doing. My phone goes in do not disturb. I don't answer texts. I don't get on social media. All I'm working on is this hyper-focused. You guys, the amount of content and descriptions and show notes I can pump out in that time is so much more impressive than if I were to just lollygag and do random things and send a text back and get on social media. I would get like one episode done in 5 hours if I did it that way. If you time block, I time block a little bit of time first thing in the morning to check through my emails. I do a little bit in the evening. I respond to all my emails before I wrap up my day. Time block where you do things. Okay. It's going to keep things focused. It's also going to keep your mind focused on one thing at a time. If I were to take my schedule and say, okay, I'm going to record a podcast, then I'm going to go do emails, then I'm going to do content creation. Now I'm going to go back to record another podcast episode. No, if I've taken the time to set up my podcast stuff, I'm going to get my mind into, I'm yapping with you for 5 hours. I'm creating podcast content for 5 hours. My brain is now hyper focused on that. When I do content creation for social media, I'm like, cool, here's my 90 minutes. I'm going to do just that. I crank through it. If I were to go back and forth, no, you'd be scatterbrained. So time blocking is super important. I use my online calendar, like my Google Calendar, to time block out. Super, super, super important. Time block. Prioritizing. You also need to be prioritizing. In order to do your time management effectively, you have to prioritize what really matters. Are you time blocking something that makes no sense? Or is it a priority? And what is the priority of it? Does that need to be done this week or could it be done next week? If you've got a list of 100 things, you're like, I got to do all these things today. Do they really need to be done today? Or could they be done in 3 days? So that you can really hyper focus your time to make sure that it makes sense. Another thing that with your time management and your time blocking, you have to take breaks. You have to take breaks and practice self-care in order for your time blocking to be effective. If you're like, I blocked out 9.5 hours, cool. Your brain needs water. You need to go to the bathroom. You need to eat. You need to get a little sunshine. You need to move your body a little bit. If you are not scheduling in your time blocking a little bit of a lunch break to give yourself the time to do all those things, your time blocking and your prioritization is going to go down. Your effectiveness is going to go down, which is why I truly believe you can do 30 hours of work. You can do your 80-hour work week in 30 hours if you really do it right. So if you do your morning routine, you set your day correctly. You've built that energy. You've taken care of you. You've had your coffee. You have listened to some upbeat music. Now you go right into time blocking. Okay. You're like, cool. Now I'm going to crank out this next 5 hours. Now I'm taking an hour. I'm going to go eat lunch. I'm going to get outside for a little bit. I'm going to call my mom. I'm going to chat a little bit with someone. Cool. Now you've rested that brain. Now you go back and you're like, I've got another 3 hours that I'm going to knock out this, and this. Super hyper focused. Then you are like, I'm done at 4 today. I'm done. And I got to go. You close it down. You close your laptop. You close your computer down. You walk out that door. You walk out that door and you leave it behind, because that is how we start to integrate both. You become hyper focused in your work life, and then you become hyper focused in your life, in your real life, and you get to be present with people. Another thing with time management, if you are not already doing this, turn off all your notifications. Turn off your notifications. I don't get notifications for anything. Emails, I do not get a push notification. Instagram, I do not get a push notification. TikTok, nothing. I do not get a single push notification for anything. Literally nothing. Because if I get down the rabbit hole, if I hear that bing, I'm done. I'm focused on that now. And this is going to help you, stay hyper-focused in your time blocking, but it's going to help you be really present in your personal life. If you continue to get dings constantly, turn your Slack in out of office mode when you leave. If you continue to get those email push notifications and you just are going to peek real fast just to see, now you're not present with your people. Okay. That is a problem. It's a problem. It's going to create burnout. It's going to create resentment from your family. It's going to create resentment from your friends. It's not going to fulfill you as a person. Now you're working again. Checking a little email is working. Just going to take a little peek at my emails. That's working. Now you've lost that balance. Now you're focusing on work instead of what's right in front of you. Now you're focusing on work instead of your partner, instead of the friends you already committed to going to dinner with, instead of your family. Okay. You have to turn off the notifications. If you take one thing from this episode, it's turn off your push notifications and watch it change your life. Watch it hyper change how you show up in your time blocked time for work and in your personal life, because you no longer get that instant hit of, oh, look, something's popping up here. Okay. Super, super important. I think that it's really important when we're talking about this to recognize that this could look different. You know that I'm always going to talk about the flip side, right? I'm always going to talk to you about sunshine and rainbows. I'm always going to talk to you about the flip side of this. I feel like I've done a pretty good job integrating both into this, but there's also going to be transitions and obstacles that are going to make this challenging. And sometimes seasons are a little more heavy, right? You start a new job. You're like, I'm not going to be flexible. I'm going to be hyper focused. Like, I'm going to be really rigid on, like, I get it, right? The longer hours, you're not going to say no. I get it. You have kids, you have different things. There's going to be obstacles along the way with this, and it's going to impact what that looks like, right? There's also seasons. I have friends that work in tax world. There are just seasons. There are blackout months that are just rough. I have friends that work in retail and own retail businesses. Do not call them in November, because Black Friday and holidays, November, December, leave them alone. I have friends in the wedding industry. Summer is super crazy for them. That is okay to have seasons. Let's not discount the fact that, like, I recognize that certain industries are all going to have their season, and that is okay to have those seasons. I think it's really important. What we do here is a season turns into a year, turns into 2, turns into 3. Okay. So if you are in a seasonal industry, here's what I want you to do. You're like, no, Callie, it is 80-hour weeks because I work in the wedding industry. I worked in the wedding industry too. And I recognize that, like, May to October, cuckoo. It's cuckoo. Absolutely insane. And there are days you have 4 weddings in a day, and then you turn around, like, I get it. And so here's what you're going to do to promote this balance. You're going to block off your calendar for the couple weeks leading up that you are like, I'm going to reduce my hours leading up to this season. And you're going to reduce your hours when you're done with that season, and you're going to block your calendar off, because that's how we start to get hyper intentional. We're time blocking our personal life too. Hey, my busy season is May 1st through October 31st. Cool. The last 2 weeks of April and the first 2 weeks of November, I want you to block those weeks off, because that's where you're still working. But instead of working 80-hour weeks, you're working 20-hour weeks. You're keeping up on your emails. Maybe you do take 2-week vacations in there. If that's something your life can support and your job can support, maybe that's what it looks like. I have a lot of friends that work in the wedding industry that do 2-week vacations right after the busy season, 3-week vacations. They take the whole month of November off. Whatever that needs to look like, block it in your calendar now, and that becomes a non-negotiable. I'm not available that day. You can pick back up. Maybe you wait till the 2 weeks around Christmas. You block out December. I have a lot of friends in self-entrepreneur businesses that block out time around December. Maybe you work in retail. That's not going to happen. So there's a couple weeks in January that you're like, cool, this is my finish line. This is my reset. And then you get back into your quote unquote off season where you really protect those boundaries again. And you hyper focus on that. Okay. So that's how we're going to navigate some of that. This is super, super important. It's something I've become deeply passionate about because it's something I was terrible at for years. And it's something I'm learning a lot right now is, how do I get really good at optimizing my work life so that my personal life can be absolutely incredible. And so that I get to sit in my season of yes, which I talked about on a previous episode. And so I get to say yes to dinner with family on a Wednesday night, so that I get to host people. You guys, a couple of weeks ago, we've been navigating a lot of life with my mother-in-law passing away. And we had people over on a random Tuesday night. some old family friends of my husband's on a Tuesday night. And I would have never said yes to that. I would have been like, oh no, I work till 6 and I would never have time to barbecue. No, we just said yes. We said yes. And it's one of my favorite core memories now of the summer. While we navigated a lot of garbage, it was one of those things over the summer that just really stood out to us as like hey, we needed this. And this is really important to our life. And saying yes to weeknight dinners and saying yes to, I took a walk with my husband's aunt. She's my aunt now too. I'll call her my aunt. One morning, because it was like, no, this is what I want to do. And this is important to me. And now that I've gotten really hyper-focused on how to optimize my time, it's allowed me to step back and really integrate my life. So I want you to try those things. I know this isn't going to happen overnight. I don't expect this to happen overnight, but I want you to start trying things. I want you to start playing with how to optimize. I want you to start prioritizing and time blocking so that you can show up in your personal life. And I want you to start saying yes to those moments that matter. I'll see you next week.